Yeah, so we're Redeem Ratchet. So what are we talking about first? We're talking about Gucci.
You was talking about Gucci Man or Gucci Gang.
Is that how you? That's how you started off? Redeem Ratchet. So what were we talking about?
All right, yeah, let's.
Sure, we was talking about your parenting skills and all of that stuff. Like,
I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, we try to show them personality too. So, you know,
I mean, yeah.
So
but we gotta be mindful.
Expeditiously gets into it. That's what he's trying to tell you.
I ain't mad at that. I ain't mad at that.
He handles business. You know what I mean?
Right at it. No beating around the bush.
Right, no beating around the bush. Yeah, we talking about Gucci, not Gucci Gang nor Gucci Man. Yeah, just, or shall we say Gucci Mane?
I can't afford none of that.
Right. Yeah. True. Sorry.
Nah.
Talking about Gucci, let's pray. Lord, thank you for just the time to be able to chop this up, Lord. Pray that you'd make our words concise. Pray that no matter what happens with our personalities, that it would be both entertaining and factual, Lord. Praise in Jesus' name. Thank you for your sovereignty over all these events. Amen. All right, man. That was a long pause between that. Amen. Lord. But
That's all about Gucci.
yeah. So Gucci, this whole blackface controversy. Yeah.
Are y'all surprised at all?
No.
Yeah, I mean, not really. Like, it's more like I was a bit befuddled, but then I was just like, nah.
You say befuddled.
He's starting to cry. Big word. He's starting off.
Oh, that's
befuddled. They gonna have to pause the video and search.
Befuddled. What does that
They gonna
mean?
spell that joke all wrong.
Put 3 D's and the E before the L. Yeah, I was like, yeah. I mean, it was just like weird. It was just like, they did what?
Yeah.
But then it was like, oh yeah, they did that. That's fine. It's
Right.
not really a surprise.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
I was gonna say, is this the first time for them doing something like that, or have they have done something like that in the past, where they've, with their clothing, offended our group? You know what I'm saying? Or is this new for them?
listen, man. I think their advertising is offensive because some of these stick thin white girls with the milky skin. Come on, man.
You're right, bro.
I ain't gonna be in no woods with you.
You
ain't gonna be in no woods with you wearing no sweater. What I look like?
I never even seen her advertise.
Let's get out all day long. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna be in no woods with you, yo. But like all of them, like, you know, I think on my personal Instagram, I was just talking about, like, you know, how all of the fashion houses that I remember growing up were just like, including Versace, he was right down the road. You know what I'm saying? Just all of them was just openly racist, or like the CEOs or the face of the company make racist statements. From Tommy Hilfiger on up, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so this is just another step or a link in that chain. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, I wasn't gonna pay for it no way. You know what I'm saying? The only name brands I wear is the stuff that people give me. I appreciate y'all. But yeah, I ain't gonna wear no name brands outside of Redeem Ratchet anyway. So
Right. Yeah.
Levi Strauss be cool.
Right. Right. Yeah, I mean, I think I always made like the same assumption where it was just like, you know, Tommy Hilfiger and them always kind of hang out in the same circles and they sort of, you know, run around the same places. They probably all rub shoulders, and it's like, you know, I mean, I haven't seen, you know, like, and like nobody came out and called Tommy Hilfiger wrong after he said what he said on Oprah.
Facts.
What is saying over? Him about he wearing the stuff.
Right. Yeah, like for those people, and she was like, "What people?" And you know, they had the whole moment. But yeah, and so, you know, it was just like one of those things where it's like, it's not like ride for Oprah. It's just like, you know, back in the day when I heard about that, it was just like, oh, my friends are those people. That's not cool. So yeah, and so ever since then, I just sort of held high fashion in skepticism, because then it's like, oh, yeah, like we don't want y'all wearing it like that. Like what? Like, you know, back in the day we used to wear baggy stuff, and so it's just like, cool. Well, if y'all don't want me wearing that stuff,
Baggy? It was way beyond baggy.
yeah, it was. Yeah, we used to be A-rapping.
That joint was out of control.
Just reminiscing so hard.
He said it was
Everybody looked Muslim. Like, everybody had the tunics on, like pants down to t-shirts down to here. Like I had like a 6X. It was a Galaxy t-shirt. Like that was the brand. Foreman Mills. That joint was 6Xs.
Galaxy. 6Xs.
Yeah, bro. I didn't need that many X's.
That's why.
I didn't need one. I didn't need 8X, and I still had an XL. I was smaller than this. In the XL.
No, see, I always shopped in the Husky section.
Comfy too, though. Like I was comfy.
In the X.
You
Posted up.
Childish stuff somewhere. Anyway,
Right. So
I ain't surprised, man. Yeah. I told y'all before, like last time, I believe a lot of this stuff is intentional anyway. Mm-hmm. I look at this like they just want to continue to agitate the black group, if you will, to continue to create this more of a distrust and a disdain for the fairer skinned brothers and sisters, if you will, to keep us separated. So
don't try to hide your skin. We
you fair, brother.
You fair.
fair skin.
Yeah,
man.
fair skin with the good credit. Yeah, that's
You know the good credit?
Nobody can know that. I don't know about good credit, man. I've been rejected for quite a few loans, but
yeah. Are y'all? What do you guys think about the response from different artists like T.I. and different celebrities who go on this activism rant after things like this happen, and then when they have a history of supporting them or supporting brands like that, like what do y'all think about that? I mean,
so historically, activism and entertainment have gone hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
But like for me, when it was going hand in hand, it always wasn't an entertainer leading the activism, right? So you had actual people involved in the movement that were studying the subject and leading the movement, and then entertainers just joined in later on, right? From your Harry Belafonte's to up until like your Maya Angelou's and your whomever else's, right? I'm blanking on names, sorry y'all. But you know what I'm saying, nowadays it's the entertainers leading the movement themselves. So if T.I. calls for a boycott of something, everybody want to jump on that bandwagon and boycott something, but it's like most of the people that's gonna jump on that bandwagon wasn't wearing it anyway, so it's easy for us to I'm gonna still go to Cuz in front of Max's and get my little fake Gucci belt. It ain't supporting them.
yeah, Max is a big cheesesteak shop up here where they be out there hustling.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, so everything out in front of them is fake. You know what I'm saying? At least the name brand stuff is fake. Right. And so I can get my little Flimberlins out there.
Flimberlins.
I can get my little Poochie belt out there.
It's a bush on the side of the tree.
It's a burning bush on the side of the tree. You know what I'm saying?
That's crazy.
Boss style Timberlands.
Right? So
they got to attract when your artist bosses. They spend that shit burning bush in it.
You get your flicky, you can get your slim flickies out there. It's you get everything you need to be a Philly young bull, right? And so, for me, I'm just like, we shouldn't be so urgent to jump on the trend of what a celebrity's saying. One, because what happens if Gucci apologizes, which they already have. They already meeting with Dapper Dan, or they already met with Dapper Dan, who's a legend in the hip hop community in terms of clothing, and so like it's a matter of like what happens next for me. It's like these celebrities jump out the gate like, yeah, boycott, and it's just like, all right, y'all the ones that's gonna take the hit for real, because that's your stylist bringing in the Gucci. That's your wife want to go to the Gucci. So what they got next season? And again, it's not just Gucci though. It's like Katy Perry threw her hat in the ring because everybody was checking for no Katy Perry slides, right? So she just threw her hat in the ring. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. Like, okay, you know what I'm saying? And the same thing with like Prada.
I've seen them things.
Exactly my point. Nobody was checking for Katy Perry. Nobody going to katyperry.com for no dang old slides. Right? And so it's just a whole bunch of madness going on for the sake of this outrage. And there's a term called outrage marketing out there, but at the same time, it's just like, why are we outraged? You know what I'm saying? That's where I'm at with it. It's like, why are you mad? Like, you know where these European brands come from. Europeans.
Right.
Right.
Tribes of Rome.
Yeah, one of the tribes of Rome, right? So it's like, at the end of the day, and I'm gonna say it with confidence too. One of the tribes of Rome, right? And so
You gotta hit that like that just seals it. When you say that, nobody can argue with you. So
like, wait, tribe of Rome.
yeah.
But yeah, like,
You know what he's talking about.
I know exactly what I'm talking about. Tribe of Rome.
Watch, if we ever go viral, we're gonna put in tribes. It's gonna be like overall Google topics.
But you know, like these companies are European based mostly, and so like, and a lot of them are old money, from an old country, right?
Mhm.
And so it's like, what are the thoughts and opinions of these people? And again, like Juan said earlier, these people run together. You know what I'm saying? So it's like a bunch of different fashion houses, and that's what people are saying. That's like back in early 2000s. That's what people's frustration with Kanye was. He was seeking the approval of these fashion houses, and he was losing himself in the process. Right. And so, now that's what you get today. Like that's what a lost self looks like.
Oh no!
That's what a whole lost self.
Y'all saw he remixed the Fred.
No. He's still in the sunken place. Don't get it. He's still in the sunken place.
I ain't buying none of that anyway. You know how I feel. But somebody showed it to me today, and I'm just like, I'm not impressed. Like, and I respect Kanye's production.
He thought he was rocking too.
What you seeing with the joint? Like,
he's still in the second place, fam.
He's still in the second.
Man, special with that.
Oh man, yeah, man, yeah.
Sink.
Bruh. Nah, I mean, I guess what I would say in response to like all that is like, you know, I'd probably like remix a Bizzle one liner like, oh, you Malcolm X now because the designer is white. Like, and it's just like one of those things where it's just like, I mean, y'all been like rocking Gucci and giving their stuff business, like giving their stuff play for a long time, and like now are you gonna throw it out the window?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why now? You know, and so it's just like okay, I get it, but then there's that, and then I saw a picture of Beyonce again in blackface, and I think this is something I'd like to discuss. Where it's like she had a blackface like frock or blouse or dress, oversized t-shirt thing on.
Situation.
A kimono, yeah, a frock
like
kimono. Yeah, you're right.
A shawl.
Kimono.
It looked something like that.
Like the dragon?
No, like the kimono was like like a robe looking joint.
Yeah,
like a robe.
Oh, like the Asian
right? Yeah. And so you know, like she had one of them on. It's just like my thing is like, so when Gucci does it, okay, I get it. Like Gucci's Italian, whatever. Like that's wrong. But like when you do it, it's commemoration. But I mean, like, what was blackface? Did that really show your understanding of it? I mean, who was that on your thing? Was that like proper Jim Crow, who was always a hero of comic relief in these plays?
The minstrel shows.
Yeah, like the minstrel shows. Like, do you really understand minstrelsy and how all that plays into even what you do as a black entertainer?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that's like the funny thing is like, do they even understand the irony that they are black entertainers playing into the stereotype of the minstrel?
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to take a break here so Juan can explain what the menstrual is, and y'all don't think it's a feminine hygiene situation.
Right. Yeah, it's not menstruating. It's a minstrel. MINSTREL. A minstrel.
All right.
I almost forgot to spell the word for a second. Right?
Tighten up.
Right. Yeah, sounds good. Watch. Somebody gonna be right now. Hold on. It still says the same thing.
We should have a bouncing ball just M-I-N.
They just float.
It float to the last couple letters.
Oh man, but yeah. So the minstrel shows were traveling plays. Yeah, and they always had like a blackface character, often whose name was Jim Crow. And so, and they would do all sorts of like different. It was like a variety show kind of thing, and sometimes it had a storyline. And again, whenever Jim Crow would come on, he would like dance and sing like black people were reputed to do. It was someone in like blackface. So like they would like literally like put like tar or something on their face like to turn it black or charcoal, and then they would always paint their lips with the pink. Yeah, and so and so. And you know, they would try to play jazz, very square jazz. Yeah. Yeah, it was just like dum.
It was big band jazz. Yeah.
Right. No, not even big band. I think it was just like one piano Sound like it's in a toddler's room for
You
real.
just got this jig motion going. Oh wow, Jim, what is you on?
Jim.
Right, and again, but like because Jim Crow is always a hero of comic relief, some people would actually say like he was kind of a Jesus figure. It was kind of weird, but again, it was very offensive, very much sort of like promulgated stereotypes about black people, like to the point that again, the Jim Crow character becomes the nickname of Jim Crow legislation. So it's like we have to keep these sort of gestures in line as sort of one of the ideas that's communicated by Jim Crow. Yeah. So yeah, and so again, it's just like one of those things where it's like, you know, like, do we really understand the like the minstrel show? Yeah, like that's always my question. Where it's like, you know, and if Beyonce does understand the minstrel show, then what does that mean? Why isn't she clear about that? Why is it now that it's like Gucci comes out and does something that's like, oh well, that's bad now?
Let me ask a question.
So, yeah, absolutely.
Is there an assumption that that people who look like you, especially celebrities, is there this expectation that they're not kind of like playing the masses? Because like I feel like is there this assumption that Beyonce's held to this standard of, oh yeah, she wants to do what's right for this group? You know what I'm saying? Because
I would juxtapose him in saying that picture is older, right? So it's maybe from like 2006, 2007.
Right. Sure.
So it's a little older, but then you also have to wrestle with the same ideas that you're talking about when it comes to Drake and him doing him doing actual blackface, like him actually painting his face, and so do they understand? Like asking those questions, do they understand, and do we hold them to a higher standard? I think so, right? I think Beyonce, I've heard it said, matter of fact, from the Beehive themselves, Beyonce can do no wrong. And it's just like, fam, she a person, she can. You know what I'm saying?
She often does in her prayers. I'm just saying, there's no mother God. That's heresy. Repent. I'm just saying. 'Cause I'm done.
I mean, and she also... Hey, his name is Juan Jose Beehive. Y'all could... Listen.
Light me up. I'm fine.
He not gonna pay attention to it, so like, y'all... Listen.
I'll be reading the old book.
You're right. So... Like, don't come to me with it, though. That's all I'm saying.
he said,
I don't want no problems. But all I'm saying is, if we're holding them to this higher standard of intellectual genius because of the music that they make, which is often the assumption, it's like, can they do wrong? Yes, of course they can, because they're human, right? But at the end of the day, I think where them not being able to do wrong is how quickly we're able to look over that offense, right? It's like, oh, she definitely almost fell, but she had like a beautiful fan in her face while she was on stage, so, oh well, right? So, and that's across the board. It's like, she said something stupid, but she apologized. And that's probably exactly why I feel the way I feel about anything that happens, like this whole idea of canceling culture, like cancel culture, right? Oh, they're canceled. All they gotta do is apologize. You know what I'm saying? Same thing for inviting white people to the barbecue. All they gotta do is bring some Czech soda. You know what I'm saying?
You said it was what?
Check.
Some Czech soda. Little cheap. You know what I'm saying?
It's like our version of Fango. Like
Wait, no, that's a movie.
Fago.
I'm thinking of
Fago.
Yeah, it's
what's
it's
Fago?
a southern version of Fago.
What's Fago?
Like cheap little can soda in the front of the store. Like, what's up
Like
with
the
you? Where you
bootleg.
from?
Y'all know Dave's soda?
All right, it's Dave's then.
All right, cool.
Dave's.
Dave's, 25-cent canned sodas.
What's up with
What y'all talking
What's
about?
up with Young Boy, Lloyd?
Listen, they on the east side. You talking about
Oh no, my dog throwing up East Coast.
these Dave's sodas?
Yeah, all right, Days. Okay,
Yeah,
all right, yeah. It's that. It's the
right.
southern version of Days
All
soda.
right, cool.
All right, so like all the white people got to do is bring some soda to the barbecue. They back in, right? And so it's not like a serious thing. We don't take it seriously anymore. I think we have this borrowed capital from our ancestors or from the people that went before us, the Martin Luther Kings, the Malcolm X's, the whomever of the civil rights movement, and we take their ideas and we try to run with them, but we don't have the same unction that they did.
Yeah, and the same gumption that they did. Yeah, I mean, like it's not just like a inspiration. It's like, man, them boys used to like not sleep. Them boys used to, man.
And they couldn't. Like they were
crazy
under a different kind of oppression in that moment.
Yeah, and duress.
Right. So.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, like, what do you think? I mean, like, you speak to it. I mean, because you asked the question. I mean, obviously, you have an answer to it.
No, not that I have an answer. I mean, I'm somebody. I mean, this is an unpopular view. I feel like
I am somebody. Yes, sir.
I'm somebody.
You gotta say that.
I'm somebody.
All right, Descartes. I think therefore I am.
Oh no.
see, he went to philosophy already. He went way deep.
Everybody try to be self-esteem coach and I shoot out a Descartes joke. All right, we done. But unpopular view that you hold.
I feel like I'm somebody. When it comes to the entertainment world, like I was saying last time, I'm not convinced at the genuineness of celebrities that try to make it seem like they have these well-meaning agendas for the people. Like I just don't believe. I don't believe that. Like I personally believe that a lot of people in that circle, not to just blink at everybody, but most people in that circle, I feel like are like, I look at it like they are pawns. You know what I'm saying? Like even like a T.I., you know what I'm saying? Like in the whole reaction, like I don't see it as like, oh, he's just genuinely upset and he wants to fight for his people and bring justice, and I don't see it as that. I see it as he's playing his role in this scheme. So I'm not like when I see these type of things happen and then there's these reactions, I'm not convinced that they are well-meaning to actually try to bring about these solutions, because think about it, like this isn't anything new. Like these issues, they're nothing new.
Right. So
my thing is, yeah, I don't have a lot of expectations from like Beyonce or whoever else to like.
His name is Christian.
My name is Christian.
Hey,
you can find me out here in these streets.
Oh no!
They say he out in the street.
You can get the hands. You can have them.
Tell him what street though. No. Tell him what street.
It's one of the streets. You know what I'm saying?
And there's a lot in Philly. And there's a lot of potholes.
The street with the potholes.
It's a one way.
It's a lot of one ways in Philly. I'm good.
Yeah, the thing about it.
It's a one way.
You give away too much.
We in my basement. Yeah.
There's a lot of basements in Philly.
Exactly.
It's only one with one of these though, so look for that.
This giant green blanket, like. Yeah. So I share that view. Like I believe in propaganda.
Right.
Yeah. I believe that that's something that happens more than it not happening. Like, so because of that, I believe that the different attempts to form society or to continue to create like different groups, I believe that things are done on purpose.
Right.
And because as black people we give in to like we're so celebrity driven, like, you know what I mean, we see somebody that looks like us in a higher status, we essentially look at them as if they can do no wrong. And most times with me, I don't automatically jump to that type of inclination, like, oh well, it's Beyonce, like she should know better, what is she thinking, or oh, it's okay because it's her. Like I look at it like whether it was something that she was aware of back in 2006 or not, like I don't have that expectation of her, because I look at her as she's a part of. It's almost like two wings on the same bird. Like at the end of the day, I don't see it as, you know, she has this like indebted pursuit to help and empower and free like blacks. Like I don't believe none of that. So right. I don't look at her. I don't expect that from her. Yeah.
Yeah, and if I might jump in and just like sort of like it's like this talented 10th idea, like when you actually read the piece by William A. Hurd,
W.E.B. Du Bois.
W.E.B. Burghardt Du Bois.
I'm about to snitch on the man, give him his whole government name.
He been dead and he not a citizen. He
don't
good.
matter.
He buried somewhere in Africa in a hole. Anyways, Roy Du Bois. Oh man, from Maryland, right? Yeah. Anyways, but like,
handle up. Yeah.
but yeah, and so like like that idea, it's interesting because like loaded into it is the assumption that like the 1% of the talented people, like that like it's like talented without reference to how, and then again that they ought to act for that. And so I think that's sort of our assumption is like this talented 10th assumption when I
was burped.
Oh, nice. No, and like like my mentor, like Dr. No, I thought you were about to like tell us to pause them. But like my mentor, like Dr. Bird, like actually critiqued that. He's like, how much do we not agree with that? Where it's not just like 1/10, it's everyone has to do their part. He's like, that's a devaluing of the Christian doctrine of the image of God. And it's funny because like Dr. Bird self-consciously says, I'm in that tradition of integrationism. I think a lot of us are, right? Mm-hmm. Like we want to see image bearers no matter what you look like, right? Like treated in the same way. That's what Du Bois ultimately wanted. But again, sort of his talented 10th actually did a lot to degrade that. And I think, we're seeing this play out again. So, okay, we don't... we wouldn't walk around with shirts that say like white people are crackers, right? Mm-hmm. And so we don't want Gucci. Yeah, right. I mean, again, like we don't do that on a regular. So we expect high fashion to not do that on a regular.
It would probably say white people are crackers. Get some soup, but so it would
some
be funny.
soup.
Get some soup, so it'd be funny, but at the same time, like it probably would be not well around my like white friends or whatever.
Right, exactly. So, but like in the same way that like we don't do that, or we don't say like the Monroe Doctrine. I'm Hispanic. Monroe Doctrine is a big deal. Like
Cesar Chavez. Let's go with that.
Yeah, like Cesar Chavez, like something like that. You know what I mean? And so like in the same way, I don't like I don't do that. Like I expect like the same respect to be shown both ways. But again, the sort of this talented 10th idea sort of degrades that. Because it doesn't really matter if the masses are ignorant and doing whatever, as long as these like key celebrities do it. It's just like, well, that's not what we're trying to go for. So why are we holding them to such a high standard? They're just people, just like us. We're all on the same plane. Again, quoting a lot of Bizzle tonight. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like like we set them up on this pedestal just to get spit on.
That's old school Bizzle too.
Yeah, that's old school Bizzle. He was still battle rapping, man.
That one.
Yeah, you felt that.
That bars.
You
got into a Philly bag real bad.
Yeah, let's go.
Me.
So let's go.
Headshots.
Oh man, but yeah, and so but like again, just the philosophical assumption there is from Du Bois, but again, it doesn't really work. So yeah. So.
And I would just on the note of like not taking the propaganda piece too far, like I think when we think of everything in this in like culture in the sphere of propaganda to get a reaction out of us, it could lead us toward like not being moved by anything. It's like that's propaganda, fam. I ain't worried about that, right? But at the same time, we want to be moved by something. We want to feel what our brothers, our sisters are feeling, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, right? And so I think it's difficult to like just view everything blanketly as like propaganda, because then you just I ain't worried about that for him. And that's the trouble with some of the folks that we deal with in the hood, right? It's like they've been oppressed so much that they don't feel nothing. So like when you see something in the community that's tragic, traumatic, whatever you want to use for it, you just, man, that's crazy, and just kind of turn your head. And that's the same thing.
You get so numb to it,
right? And so that's the same thing that's happening now with Gucci, and that's what makes it so easy for us to go back to these brands, right?
But like it's like I got lung cancer and I keep like I need more tissues because like my nose is running, but it's like I'm not really attacking the problem. Like so I feel like when we put a lot of energy towards like going after the Gucci and boycott, I ain't buying their stuff, or I ain't shopping here, or I ain't doing that, or I ain't listening to them.
man,
it's like, does that really fit? Like, does that fix it when it's like the core of the issue is deeper than just this brand doing this? Like,
for sure, the EPR is far deeper than just boycotting them. I think it starts with a little bit of education on what these brands is, what these brands are, what they're doing, and then like the buying power of the people who are spending the money with these brands also has to be a factor. Like, who's spending the most money with Gucci? Is it people that look like us,
right,
or is it somebody else? And so, and if it's somebody else, then our outrage is free promotion for this company,
right,
for this brand, for this product, whatever it is.
Dang.
And so, at the end of the day, it first starts with education for me, and like hopefully in the education process, somebody's heart is changed in them knowing and understanding that, okay, this is something that is used to market to a certain audience. Not this one. We're just gonna upset them because they're gonna promote it freely, right? It's like the culture that we live in today. It's easy to just diss another artist publicly. Now y'all beefing back and forth, and that's gonna get clicks. It's gonna get views. So it's like a clickbait situation, almost. And so ultimately, one person is not gonna come up with a solution because it's a bunch of different personalities and opinions and views that are involved. And so, but I would say it first starts with educating the people on why you mad, fam. What you mad for, right? So this is why you should be mad, right? Instead of just being, oh, they did a thing that you can like see, be mad at that. No. They did plenty of things that you can't see.
Right.
Be mad at that, right? So, like just like a peek behind the curtain, so to speak.
Right. Yeah. I mean, again, you know, like you kind of talked about like the two-winged bird. You know what I'm saying? Where like, I think like there's like
one-winged birds.
There was this pigeon.
But it was because somebody tried to eat his wing though. Like somebody tried to fry it. Like they were that Popeye
with the feathers.
Like,
yeah, you're right.
Ming Ling them. No,
oh no! That's
we gonna cut
They
that
call me
part.
Mano.
They call me Mano.
Catch y'all later.
They call me her Mano.
Her Mano. Oh man, but yeah, and so you know, I mean, so I think like there's like the conspiracy theory-esque thing, but then again, like the other thing is like, you know, a lot of times these guys are just trying to make money, and again, like that's also my thing with celebrities. Is celebrities are just trying to make money too. So it's like, you know, like not only do they probably not have our best interests in mind, but it's like, oh, if they see people get mad, like, oh no, I'm gonna do that. Or if they know they can potentially exploit the outrage and be like, oh man, he's for us, I'm gonna buy his next album. See what I'm saying? So it's like one of those things where it's like that's that two-winged bird where it's like, you know, all these people in this equation are just trying to make a lot of money off of overpriced stuff.
I think it's deeper than money, but that's just me.
Well, no, I'm saying, and like, so it's money on the one hand, and that's what you're saying on the other hand. Like, and like, you know, like they all tend to complement each other because, you know, buying power is a thing. You know, like, how do you create a society? Well, you have to get in office first. Generally, how do you get in office? Make a whole crap ton of money. So there's like both of those things. Like, you need both. Because if you're busy working 12, 13-hour days, you don't have time to do all that. And then you got to get home, you got to raise your jits, or you got to do whatever else you do with your life, you know. So, but from that perspective, that's like the other wing on the bird. You see what I'm saying? Like, and that's they sort of fly in concert, and not like bird, not like mono.
We'll catch y'all later.
Just fly off to one side.
Flying horizontal.
Fly like it's like he a beach cruiser.
Oh no. Oh man. So, well, I think that is the end of that conversation.
All right. Well, I mean, all this ties to how we all have been educated, right? So
big facts. Equifax.
Facts.
Equifax.
Oh no, is that like a credit report?
Experian facts.
Experian fact. FICO facts.
Oh, dang. I forgot the third one, so you probably do got a good credit score.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? You
Nah,
bringing up FICO.
Nah,
Just
man.
bringing up FICO.
Wells just gives me FICO, so that's it.
You bringing up FICO like it's Like it's easy. Hell, FICO. Yeah, don't forget about them.
You be getting them good loans.
Nah, bro, I don't be getting no loans.
Good interest rates.
Nah, bro.
2%.
I don't got none of that, bro. I got too much debt to income. So if someone wants to hack and cancel my debt, I mean, shoot, you know.
This is Juan. Hit him up. Hack this thing.
Juan, hit him up. Beehives too.
WAWN.
It's Wawa with an N. Think about it.
But I said Wawan.
Oh yeah, so the narrative. So that thing. Just looking at your text. I ain't trying to be a smooth segue, but
Smooth operator.
looking at your text, I think based on what we just talked about, some of the things that I was thinking, like transitioning into the narrative of American history, like
Right.
what kind of has been the, I guess, the story about like who we are. You know, I feel like most people, when it comes to like blacks, we just everything kind of just starts at the transatlantic slave trade. You know what I mean? But I mean, technically, it makes sense because this is where we were born. Like, we are Americans.
Black.
Well, okay.
But that sound black.
You enjoy that. Let me know how that goes. I identify as white, so I don't know what y'all talking about.
Oh no.
Listen, I have listen, man.
My man hate himself.
Oh,
Listen,
He out here a whole chocolate bar.
listen.
Talking about hate white.
This postmodern society we live in, bro. It don't even, it don't even matter no more.
Postmodern, but alright, yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah,
Super
double
post.
post office.
Double post, Austin postmodern.
Listen,
Post squared.
I could be whatever,
I feel like
Yeah,
Post
man.
Malone modern.
I identify as European.
he also identifies as a black man. But anyway,
Oh no.
Post Malone.
Roast Malone, Toast Malone, Pay My Loans Malone.
Pay my loans.
he really want them interest rates down. Hackers hit him up. He really trying to. Yeah.
Pay my loans.
He really trying. That's like the
put
fourth time he done mentioned it. Hey yo, do something about these loans, y'all boys.
Yo,
I don't know.
listening.
Saying.
Hey, if y'all listening, hey, do we need to give you the names again? Like, do your finger thing, you know what I'm saying? Let us know.
Oh man.
But yeah, just some like the narrative about,
Yeah, so like I guess why is this important too? So like reason it sounds so random, but like all history has a sort of a controlling narrative or historiography.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like based on this one narrative, they highlight certain facts and they'll downplay other facts, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't matter how big of a deal it is. And so I've heard like most of the country, like not in Broward, not in Dade, I don't think most of Florida, just because HBCUs contribute so many educators to the Florida educational system, especially in Broward, that's like, we'll have like a couple days on indentured servitude every year versus like 1 or 2 days on slavery. You know what I'm saying? Because like so many of our students are Trinidadian and stuff like that they have to treat indentured servitude. But then they'll have like a 6 or 7 or 8 week unit on Black history every year. And there's at least one teacher in the school that throughout the whole U.S. history or social studies curriculum is always highlighting how Black people like play as active participants in this. And so like that's where we're from. But and so I always had a great Black history curriculum. I just assumed it was like that. And I moved up here to Philadelphia for like, yeah, like they told us slavery wasn't that bad and it was like 1 day a year, and it was just like, huh? What kind of weird stuff is that? And so and so again, so the question is, why would you downplay such a big part of American history? Why would you just spend 1 year on it, just sort of mention it wasn't that bad and keep it running? Like, what's the narrative there that's causing you to do that? Yeah, like in public school. Yeah, like what's the narrative there that's causing you to downplay that? You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like again, like what are you trying to prove? What story are you really telling?
What are you trying to hide?
Right, exactly. Like, what story are you telling? So, that's why it's an important question. So, like, essentially, like, if we use fancy words, what's the historiography of America? And so, but we're not going to use fancy words.
Okay, what's the historiography?
Against the meta narrative, like, like the meta story, the big story you're trying to tell. That causes your selection of facts. Everything I just said.
Yep. You said historiography and meta narrative. I heard it.
So everything that I just said before this A controlling bigger narrative is historiography.
There you go.
Right?
A controlling bigger story, because he keeps saying narrative. Like I know what that means. He keeps saying a controlling bigger narrative.
See, I know what narrative is.
Oh, that's what's up. Man. You got good education.
Did.
That's what's up.
I had like 1,200 kids in my graduating class.
Oh, you smart. You went to college, huh?
I did. I probably shouldn't have graduated though.
Oh no.
Student loans.
Yeah. Christian Mayfield. The basement with the green tarp. Punch some numbers in for me. Take care of that.
Man. So since that's why it's important, and like that's what we're talking about when we say like, you know, what's the story of American history, or you know, like what's the controlling narrative. So
And based on who you talk to, you probably get multiple different like narratives, essentially, right? Because I feel like for me, I'm thinking about country being built on capitalism, right? Right. I don't want to pay taxes, and I want religious freedom. I don't want to pay taxes, right? So I'm gonna go find my own space, try to cheapen my taxes. Boston Tea Party, hey, right? You know what I'm saying? And we gonna try to escape the overbearing queen, king
Whoever.
situation over
Right.
there, and try to live free on the land. So like ultimately, the founding fathers of America were capitalistic, violent hippies. Yeah, counterintuitive, sort of like this counterbalanced idea, but like that's how I see them. Just like I want freedom from this oppressive thing, and at the same time, I'm gonna be violent. I'm gonna violently take over this land and that didn't belong to me. So, and then how that plays into the rest of the history of America is like everything they did was based on making money. Like how do we make money for this? We're gonna steal some people now. Violently steal people from a place. Put them to work, forcibly put them to work. They're gonna produce a bunch of different items that are gonna make us money, whether it's rice, indigo, cotton. Yeah, it wasn't just cotton people, right? Mm-hmm. So there's a bunch of different commodities they're gonna produce for us, and we're gonna just sell them, right? And so like all of that's going on, and I think that plays into how American history gets us to this point where we're talking about Gucci, right? Money on top of money. Who's controlling the money, and how are they controlling the money is what's important. So.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like, you know, I mean, I think like, so like when you say capitalism, you say money driven, but again, like, I mean, I would say a lot of people in early America weren't properly capitalistic. They were, in the South, they were paternalistic, and like in the North, they might have been like mercantilist, something like that. You know, so like, you know, we throw out like proper economical terms. I'm just not gonna go into all that. But like, yeah, I mean, like definitely money driven. Yeah, like that's a big part of it. And like, you know, in the South, again, like it's a slower pace of life, but in the North, it's like productivity driven, stuff like that. Like the different sectional personalities definitely took root early on, and like the way they made money and sort of kept power. And so like, again, so I think like, you know, you said something insightful earlier where it's like, the educational system is trying to give you what you need to sort of function. And so like if we're a make money society, whether it's we could live in the suburbs or out in the sticks somewhere, or whether we could live in the city, then like they're trying to train you with enough to do that. So yeah, so they're trying to give you enough American history to sort of make you American, make you think in terms of productivity, the American dream, again, whether that's in a row house or whether that's out in the suburbs or whether that's somewhere out in the sticks. So because you do have those different versions of the American dream. Like it's not all white picket fence in the suburbs. Some of it's like row house in Philly because I'm a hipster and I wear weird clothing and I have facial hair with gel in it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then again, other stuff is like, hey, I want you to forget about me. I want old money out in Central PA somewhere where nobody knows I'm here. So yeah, and so to varying degrees, like, you know, they want to do that. And so again, if you're just trying to give people that narrative, then like, yeah, like that's sort of like what people are trying to do. Yeah. What do you think? What is like the controlling facets of the American history narrative?
You said what are the controlling American history facets?
Yeah, and so like, what's like the big story that they're trying to tell us in public schools?
From what I remember, man, I don't know. I feel like they wanted to make it seem like, you know, that there was this dark past that was just that it was just the past. But I feel like they don't really talk about like the continuation of the systemic like attempts to oppress and you know, just kind of keep people like from like prevent people from being able to develop. You know what I mean? I think they treat it as if it's like, okay, this thing happened, but you know, things got better. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
But I mean, I at that time being in middle school and high school, like I didn't fully understand any of that. Like, to me, it was just like, why do I care about any of this? Like,
right.
At the time, I'm like, I don't care. Like, it just, to me, it was like, this is old. How does this affect me? I don't get it. But obviously now I'm seeing, you know, the importance of understanding just kind of some of the things that happened. But I personally feel like just some of the like, because I don't necessarily know what some of the philosophies were of the people who were quote unquote the founding people, like, but I would be curious to know, because I forgot who it was, but it was like a Greek philosopher who believed that creating culture was more important than focusing on the economy. Like, it would, like, if you could create a culture and create a lifestyle, then like the money would follow, essentially. Like the money wasn't the primary thing that they were after. It was more so about creating a culture. If you can create a culture or like a lifestyle behind a brand or behind something, you kind of will have these lifelong, you know, customers in a sense, or people who are easier to kind of do your bidding because they're, you know, they're kind of like loyal in a sense. I mean, you just look at how we are now. Like, if somebody doesn't have an iPhone, most reactions are like, what's wrong with you? Like, you know what I mean? It's like that's been subconsciously ingrained into us to kind of buy into this idea that, oh, this is a better way of life. Like having this or wearing this, or, you know what I mean? So I'm interested in that aspect of it, because beyond just advertising and selling things, I feel like it's a great way. I'm going to read this quote real quick by this dude, Edward Bernays. You know Edward Bernays?
It sounds like mayonnaise, though.
He says, the conscious and intelligent manipulation of organized habits and opinions of the masses is an important element in the democratic society. Those who manipulate this unseen mechanism of society constitutes an invisible government, which is the true ruling power of our country. You know what I'm saying? So, like, for me, I'm interested in the thought process behind, like, the people who pull the strings, or the 1%. Like, I'm interested in knowing what was their philosophies, like what was their thought process, who influenced how they thought, and essentially what control what they did ultimately, as opposed to just looking at the action only. But it's like, I want to know the thought, like what was your bent? Because at the end of the day, us being Christians, I really only see it obviously two ways. Either you were influenced by Jesus and you were a follower of Christ and you did his will, you know what I'm saying, you kept his commands, right? Or you didn't, and you were being fathered and led by the enemy, like the unseen enemy. So I believe at the end of the day, I mean, that's a very general blanketing of two separate groups, but I think the way that kind of plays out through society, I mean, like you said, you see these people came over here and violently took over this land. But it's like, what motivates and manipulates a person to be that vicious and that oppressive and that aggressive and that violent? Like, I mean, man already has this bent towards sin, but it's like that level, like the way how gruesome slavery was and how oppressive it is, like that type of mindset, I feel like has to be spiritually influenced. Like, I don't think that just man in and of itself just decided on their own. You know what I mean? Like, I think there's just more layers to what we see through, like what a secular school would teach us about what happened in history. So yeah, man, So yeah. So
he got into that one. So
Man, he went all the way, man. He answered the question, man.
I didn't answer it.
No.
Wait, what was your question?
It's like, what is the narrative? Like you started
What's the
to answer
narrative?
it. Yeah, it's like, what's the narrative where it's like stuff gets better? Like that was like your answer to the question. Like, that was good.
That's what I think the narrative is. It's like, okay, this thing happened, and things are different now. Like,
right.
This illusion of progress, this illusion of,
Right.
things are better. Like,
Right.
that's what I think the narrative has been for me, at least.
So is it all better or better? Because I think there may be space to say it's better. Like, I ain't in chains no more, fam. Right? So it's a little better. But is it, I think where we start hitting a point of contention with anybody that's saying this slavery is over with or like racism is over with.
Slavery was a choice.
That's a fight.
I'm messing. I'm joking.
Put these hands on you, son.
No.
But like that, just that general idea of like, oh, there's no more racism. Like, I think that's a narrative that may exist in school sometimes.
That racism doesn't exist.
That racism is over. That the time for that space is over.
Right.
Like once the civil rights movement moved in, all of the Jim Crow laws and all of that stuff were overturned, then racism went out with it. And I'm just like, changing of the guard, so to speak, doesn't change people's hearts. And so like if your grandma, great grandma, whoever she was, was out in the streets with signs with the N-word on it, that didn't change overnight. She might have met a nice black man, whatever she did, then that might have changed. Like Green Book or something like that. But outside of that, like she just quieted it. All right, she just don't talk about it as much. But in the house, hey, don't play with them over there. You know what I mean? Why not? We better. You can do better than that, right? And so now you're supplanting this seed in their mind that they're better than another person. But again, that doesn't necessarily extinguish racism just because laws changed. It's a thing. And so like I think that's the narrative that goes on in schools. Like some stuff happened, there were some marches, laws were changed, things got all better, or racism
said bye-bye.
Yeah, went bye-bye, right? And so like that's just almost a slap in the face, you know what I mean?
Right, yeah, and then I actually like what you said. So like I was trying to like prime the pump to like get you like throw out a couple points. Like I think like progress in totality. You know what I'm saying? Like certain things don't stay the same, which again, this violates the canons of telling history or of how you tell history, where it's like what changed and what stayed the same. And I feel like there's such an emphasis on what changed because again, like talking about consumerism, it's all about like what's the next thing, you know what I mean? What's the next sale? You know, like there's essentially a sort of a sacred calendar of sales. There's Black Friday. There's the semi-annual sale. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's the fall sale. There's the winter sale.
After Christmas sale.
Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's like this sort of sacred calendar of sales. And so, like, it's just very interesting how the history curriculum with its emphasis on total progress and what's next, after this. Like, what's next after this? What's next after that? What's next after that? Like, that it doesn't highlight what stays the same, what takes a while to change. It just makes it seem as if there are these violent changes because, again, of our emphasis on progress, which is a virtue of consumerism. right? Like, when in the fashion industry, like, we know that that's not the case. But why would we think historically it's the case with these like sort of complex series of events? So yeah, and so that's interesting. So we sort of settled on like very money driven, very much like forward progressing, and very much like sudden change, even to a point where it's just like violent and just impossible. Where it's just like, how did stuff that was done for 300 years just change overnight? Like, does it just change overnight? And I think a lot of people want to believe on both sides, Democrats and Republicans, liberals and conservatives, they all want to believe a certain kind of change just happened overnight. Yeah. And so that's a lot of what we receive in schools, and that's a lot of, I think, some of the outrage we're getting. Because people think, it legitimately changed. Why is this happening? Why is that happening? And people start getting really upset, and it's just like, well, it's because it didn't really change.
Right.
There's a lot that stayed constant, and again, a lot of things that have just like, it changed, but it morphed. Change isn't equal ending. Sometimes it means it just takes on new forms.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so
shifted.
So yeah, and so maybe like that's like teaching our kids, right? Because it's like, you know, where it's like when they're receiving this narrative, for people who have to send their kids in the public schools, we should tell them like, hey, what stayed the same, what took on a new form, and we should teach them how to think in that critically, so that then they can start to ask their teachers, well, is it possible something took a new form? Because maybe there are some teachers that just sort of teach this mindlessly and haven't thought about it themselves. You know, I mean, I always like to take a charitable reading of people. Even though I think a lot of people just don't care and they want to promulgate this narrative too. But I don't know, maybe that's how we can start to get city teachers to sort of be more nuanced, is teaching our kids how to ask questions. You know, and again, so it's like, is inevitable total progress always a thing, or are there some things that sort of take new forms when it comes to, you know, like racism and like oppressive policies? Like, how do they take new forms? You know, society shaping things from one era, do they just sort of take a new form into the next era?
In terms of change, what does it look like in the American education system? Because we have those minor changes, like talking about like the way we do mathematics, but ultimately the mathematics is the same. And it's the same thing with history. The way we're taught history is the same. It's just that history in and of itself changes. So like 2001, September 11th, for people our age and older, that may not necessarily be history. That's a living memory. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But for the kids in high school now, the kids in middle school now, history. You know what I'm saying? That's like around the time they was born, a little bit after they was born, whatever it is. And so, you know, like, how does the American educational system change to fit what is going on now? And I think that's the biggest complaint we see in society today, is like the educational system hasn't adapted to how we live. And I would say maybe not, right? Because in some ways we're not an agrarian society, so the American educational system has adapted where they're not outside trying to teach us how to tend fields, right? Even though like people are calling for that for some reason, like they need to teach us how to farm. Fam,
Why?
as a black man, I'm gonna tell you right now, as a black man, I don't want my white professor teaching me how to farm for obvious reasons.
I just don't. Mad at that. I ain't mad at farming, bro.
I ain't mad at farming. I don't want Mr. Dave to teach me how to farm. Now it's six dudes that's outside look like us on the farm sweating. He's like, yeah, you gotta pull it from the root. Fam, I'm straight on that. You gotta pull it from the root so you like, nah, I'm good. Cause you know, like, that's what it looks like. You know what I'm saying? Even on these like stories that come from around the country, like it's a school out in Bucks. They got a little farmland. They got the little black girl on the tractor. Really? The little black girl on the only one out there on the tractor. Oh, all right. But I'm just saying the school system has evolved in some ways and changed in some ways, but Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Is my question to y'all.
The change that the school system has made.
Mm-hmm. Like, obviously, if you got kids, you would say no because of the math thing, but...
Well, they ain't there yet. He only 4, so he got some time.
Oh no, he gonna get there next year.
We'll see. He ain't not write his name yet. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't really, kind of like you said, man, it ain't nothing really changed, just different methods, like, for things, but I wouldn't say, I mean, I think things are still the same way. Like, even just the whole idea of, like, American schools, like, it really is not meant for learning. It's really just meant to just regurgitate what you, it's really just to test your memory. Like, how good can you remember these things that I told you or the things you read? Like, it ain't, they're not really trying to help kids learn and experience. Like, so I think our whole school system, because we have like this factory style, like, don't ask any questions, teacher's always right type of environment, to where it's still the same environment. Like, it's, even though like you said, the methods are different, it's like it's the same teaching styles, to where I don't feel like kids can really learn the most effective in the system that our schools are set up in. So no, I would say things haven't really changed. In my opinion, I don't think things have changed really, like, or at least it's like micro changes. Like, it's like okay, well, now instead of eating lunch at 6th period, they eat lunch at the 4th period. It's like, okay, like, yeah, like, it's small stuff that doesn't have a large impact on, because I feel like it still produces the same product. It still produces the same type of mindset, like a person coming out. It's like you go through this high school or whatever. If you even go to not grad school, but, you know,
college.
Yeah, undergrad. Yeah. Well, I was thinking about the, like, undergrad, grad.
Oh, you trying to use big words?
I was trying to be like y'all.
Oh no, I was trying to be like y'all. I don't know many big words.
But I feel like it produces the same type of, like, person once you get out of the system. Like, you know what I mean, where you're more focused on, you know, I don't know,
getting a job.
Yeah, like, you just think about, where am I going to work? How much money I'm going to make? You're not really trying to, like, learn and actually. Most people aren't focused on skills anymore. You know what I mean? Like, things that I feel like you can't really be replaced by, like, you know, a computer or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, most of the jobs is stuff that, like, anybody can just. I don't know. I feel like our schools still produce the same type of people as they did back then. Yeah. So I don't think much has changed. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I think there is, like, some, like, positive change. Yeah, again, like, on a smaller scale, like, in smaller school districts.
Mm-hmm.
You know, again, like, you know, like, I mean, even over some bigger school districts, like, again, like, Broward, I think, has a great history curriculum. Now, whether they have a great, you know, like, now their math and science curriculum, on the other hand, if you really want to get a good pre-med program, you have to go to the magnet school for that. I think that's kind of how Broward, like, suffers in that way, even though it's a strength because they can bus people across the county. Again, but it's just one of those things where it's just like, it's just a rough sort of, like, what's really better. Versus in Philly, you know, I think it's more of, like, a factory sort of thing. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like you have individual teachers in the school district trying to do something, but it's just like, are they really going to implement multiple intelligences across the district? No. You know what I mean? Like, so that they can help meet people where they're at and help them learn where they're at? No. You know, like, what are they actually trying to do across the district? You know, versus in smaller school districts, they have more funds for experiential learning and stuff like that. You know, old money school districts, they have enough for that. So it's like, you know, that's what I would say is, like, in the most populous areas, the areas where there's the most people and where there's, like, a lot of influence and stuff like that, generally, yeah, it's still more of a factory mentality. Yeah, and I mean, in terms of, like, the curriculum having to change, yeah, I mean, as someone who's aspiring when I grow up, whenever that is, to be a history guy, it's going to be interesting to see what part 9/11 plays. Like, what is no longer an issue after 9/11, or at what point do the issues created at 9/11 stop? How is that no longer with us? You know, again, and like, how does Obama play into all this? Like, sort of like these sort of like all these historical moments. Like, once they go in the books, how are they going to play into this narrative of like just like abrupt progress? And like, that's no longer a problem. And like, sort of like never asking the question, well, what stays the same? Like, what are the history books going to say about these things? And so I don't know. That's really interesting. It's a really interesting question. I don't know. I don't have a speculation because, yeah, I mean, it's going to be very bizarre.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's a great question. But I was more so interested in just like, you know, at what point do we say this is good enough for this, but if you want to learn X, Y, and Z, there's a space for that too, right? Because I'm one of those people. I don't trust the educational system enough to teach me the things that I need to know, right? Or the things that I want to know, right? So like, I think in this culture where we have a lot of memes go around that tell us what the school system should have taught us. I think in that space we have I don't really trust the educational system to teach me to think. To teach me. No. I don't trust them to teach me the things that I need to progress, or the things I feel I need to progress in life, right? So if I'm gonna be a farmer, am I gonna trust Dave to teach me how to farm, or Mr. Dave to teach me how to farm? Nah, I'm gonna get out there and get it out the mud, literally and figuratively, right? And so if I'm accounting, do I trust my high school math teacher to teach me the rules and regulations of accounting, or even like minor stuff like balancing a checkbook or creating a budget? Is that necessarily the job of the teacher in high school? Should it be? Is a good question, right? Does some responsibility fall on the parent? Because I think that's a big thing that we neglect. Like, we willingly send our kids to get up out my face and trust the teachers to teach them everything from sex ed to everything else, right? Because that's what the little waiver for you. Go ahead and teach them about sex, right?
You homeschool.
Know what I'm saying? But that's what I mean. Like, we've structured our minds around the educational system will teach us everything we need to know for life, right? And once we got older and we realized, oh snap, there's so much more that we need to know for life. Now we complain about what the educational system looks like instead of, one, getting it out the mud, like, go and figure it out, right? Because I think in some way, that's what it's built for. That's what the educational system is like built for. If you want to know something beyond this, there's space and opportunity. They teach you how to use a library, right? Teach you how to use Dewey Decimal System, right?
Right, a curse word.
I know. I see.
Library.
I see you feel it in your shana now, but
no, I said Library of Congress.
Yeah, like
he said Dewey Decimal System. Ooh.
Yeah, but like the system teaches you how to look up information. So right, so it's not saying this is all the information. It's saying this is what we're gonna teach you.
Right.
If you want to know more, boom, here's the opportunity to learn more. Library. And we just kind of neglect it. We just bypass it for the sake of saying, oh, all right, it's all good. We'll do something else. Or have that attitude you had at high school and middle school. It's like, why do I really care about this? You know what I'm saying? And at the end of the day, is that a good thing or a bad thing that we wrap our minds around an educational system that we'll say when we 30, 27 and up, whatever it is, they ain't teach me nothing. And it's like, they taught you enough to get out there and get the information, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think maybe like that's what that's what, as parents, that's when we need to start like putting demands back on parents, where it's like, okay, like you tell your kid, all right, hey, this is why this is important. It doesn't fall on the teacher to do that. It falls on you to do that.
Exactly.
And it also falls on you to tell them, okay, hey, like if you're interested in something, you should go out and do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, and I mean, like, honestly, I'm a classics guy, like classical education, great tradition education. So, anyways, the bearing that it has on this is like back in the day, it was viewed as these are the building blocks and these are like the basic tools you need to do anything. Mm-hmm. And like that's all it gives you, just basic blocks and tools, you know. And so like again, they shouldn't teach you how to apply these tools. Like you got to go out and actually use them.
Right.
And you got to see which set you're really good at using so you get a job in that field. But it doesn't mean to the neglect of the other tools. Yeah. And so I think like that also falls on parents to explain these and to encourage and to cultivate. It shouldn't fall on the school.
Right. Mm-hmm. Because if the school does that, then they're trying to encourage and cultivate. Like how many students in a public school classroom? Upwards of 30 kids to one teacher. How does one person do that?
Right.
And that's across most metropolitan city school districts.
Right.
There are large classroom sizes. It's not a good teacher to student ratio at all.
Right. Even in Broward, I mean, as much as I laud the education system there, overcrowding is still an issue.
Yeah.
So.
Right. And so like how does one teacher pour into upwards of 30 students in one classroom constantly, and again turnover rate, you know what I'm saying, because they're gonna have a new class more than likely the next year, so now you got to figure out these students' skill set, pour into them, and it's too much. It's a lot. That's a lot to put on the teacher that's making 35 max thousand a year.
Yeah. And so again, like I think like that's what we said to our internet friends is like you make sure, like, rather than criticizing, because it's real easy to criticize from your keyboard, Twitter thug. I need you to actually be like keep it real with your kids, and like I need you to resolve to, rather than do the same thing that was done to you, teach your kids the proper things. Right.
And again, it's like it's just one of those things that bothers me so much. Why does the internet teach my child more than the school does? Why does the internet teach your child more than you do? Right. The thing about the internet is it can teach your child whatever they want to know, and you may not want them to know all of that. So at what point do you introduce certain things? Like there are a lot of people that won't let their child watch certain movies, rated R movies, to up to a certain age. But it's just like, are you teaching them about sex? They gonna learn it from the school, and they gonna learn it in a raw way where they show them all kind of pictures and stuff.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's gonna just, oh my God, traumatizing, right? I can still see some of the pictures in my own mind from my sex ed experiences in school, and it's just like, fam, do you really want your child going through certain things like that, or do you want the privilege, opportunity, and honestly a duty to teach your children about the things they need to know, right?
Right.
So that was my end point. Talk to the people.
Dope, man. I'm like, yeah, dope. I think teaching and training need to be like go hand in hand when it comes to teaching or dealing with kids in schools and all that, because it's like if you just give kids a bunch of information and not really actually show them, train them how to actually apply, like you were saying, how to apply the stuff. It's almost like if I'm your personal trainer and we're in the gym and I'm like, so this is the bench, you lay on it and you push the weight up. This is the leg curl, you sit on it and you lift it up with your legs. This is the pull-up rack, you hold your hands on it and pull yourself up. All right, now go ahead. And I just walk away and you've never been to a gym before? Like, you probably gonna pull something, hurt something, like, you know what I mean? Like, I need to walk with you and train you on how, but that's what, like you said, I'm a big fan of, like, it starts in the home first. Like, you know what I mean? I'm a huge fan of that. So I do believe that the onus is on the parents to, like, take up that mantle and, like, direct your kids raise your kids, teach your kids. So yeah, it starts with the parents for sure.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard, you know, like when parents work inconsistent jobs for underpaid, stuff like that, and they're worried. But again, like that's like a part of like the duty of parenting. Like that's like the fear that of like meme culture is like it's easy as a parent when you zoning out because you gave your kid a phone, you got a phone, and you're like, oh yeah, that's true. Why didn't I learn that? Instead of like, oh, I didn't learn that. Now let me like instill it in this little kid who wants to just be on the tablet all day. Like let me not do that. So yeah.
For sure.
It's good. It's robust. It's rich.
Like red velvet.
Rich.
Yeah. That's what they say. It's rich. That's rich.
It's wealthy.
That smells the wealth.
It's that old money.
Yeah, that's that generational wealth.
It's that old money.
All right, we gotta find a way to end it because I think that was the last topic. Yeah, we can't just wealthy.
Right.
All right, see y'all next time, y'all.
Stay wealthy. Stay wealthy.
Stay rich. Yeah.
We're ending it.
It's over. Cut. Beautiful guys. Dynamite.
Right.
Dynamite.
Wow.